Let's bring in Republican Congressman Jim Renacci of Ohio. He sits on the Budget and Ways and Means Committee. Congressman, it's great to have you with us this morning. Appreciate you getting up for us. So I wanted to ask you, sir, about President Trump tweeting yesterday, as we saw in that report, saying, "I'm being investigated for firing the FBI director by the man who told me to fire the FBI director." Witch hunt. So if it's true that the President Trump is now officially under investigation, does that make it harder for you and your fellow GOP congressmen to continue to stand behind President Trump?
Well, look, the president is the president. He's going to continue to move forward with policies, which I believe he ran on. He continues to get these things done, and I think it's important that we continue the process for the American people. So absolutely, we're going to continue to move the ball forward, and I know the president wants to do that as well.
So let me ask it this way, then. You heard in the president's tweet, or you saw in the president's tweet, he used the term witch hunt. Do you agree with him that what is happening in Washington, D.C. is a witch hunt?
Well, look, I know what's happening in Washington, D.C. I've been there for 6 years. The rhetoric, the back-and-forth rhetoric, is not what's really good for the American people. I was a businessman for almost 3 decades. I went there because I want to get past this rhetoric and get some things accomplished. And I think that's what the American people want us to do. And at some point in time, we have to be able to move forward. There's investigations going on. Let the investigations go on. But let the Congress and let the president continue to do the business of the American people.
So the tweet is placing Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein's future into question. I mean, that's how a lot of people, sir, are interpreting that tweet. Do you think we're heading towards seeing him fired or recused from the Russia probe? Would you support either move? Do you want to see him gone?
Well, look, people can interpret a lot of things. It's, again, one of the problems we have in Washington, D.C. We interpret a sentence. We interpret things the way we want to interpret them. Again, this is the president making his position known via tweet. He's trying to talk to the American people directly. I'm going to let him explain what the tweet means and the interpretation. For me, again, this is about trying to get something done. My frustration levels are that we have to get tax reform done. We have to get health care reform done. We have to get the things done. We need to continue to work on those. And look, there are already investigations going on. Let them go on. But let's continue to work with the American people.
But it seems, though, sir, with the actual investigations that are going on, it is casting a shadow on the things that you want to get done. The fact that the president is unable to advance his agenda is in large part because of things that he's tweeting out. So in some ways, you can make the argument he's actually shooting himself in the foot because he himself is the one that's constantly putting out these tweets about investigations, about witch hunts, and that then diverts the attention away from the work that all of you guys in Congress are trying to do. Is that not a fair criticism of the president?
Well, look, I know that we have three distinct offices. We have the House, we have the Senate, we have the administration. We need to just continue to work together. What we can do in the House is continue to work on what we need to get done. What the Senate can continue to do is work what they need to get done, and the president can continue to move his programs forward. At the same time, yes, there's always going to be this media attention on one-liners, but again, this rhetoric is what continues to drive the American people crazy. When I got back to Ohio, I still hear the same thing. People want us to get the job done. They want us to let the investigations occur. Let them go. Let's continue to do the work of the American people, and I think that's what's important.
All right, Congressman, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about, unfortunately, that tragic shooting that happened earlier in the week. The shooting is obviously bringing new focus onto political divisiveness in the country. I want to quote you something that you wrote in an op-ed on that particular subject. You write, "Today's hyper-partisan environment is hotter and more harmful than I have ever seen, and we are at risk of scenes like the one we saw on the D.C. area baseball field Wednesday morning." I'm curious, sir, to get your thoughts. What do you think brought us to this point of divisiveness? And can the bipartisanship that we've seen in the last few days on the baseball field hold up as the investigations move forward, as the agenda moves forward?
Well, it has to. And, Eamon, I have to tell you, when I first got to Washington 6.5 years ago, I saw it in my first hearing. And that's why I started a bipartisan breakfast. I meet once a week. We have a bipartisan group that talks about these issues. How can we work together? How can we move legislation forward? We're happy to say that last year there were multiple pieces of legislation that actually got passed into law through this group by working together. Now, are they the big picture issues? No, and that's where we have to be able to get to. But the problem is, I can tell you, 6.5 years ago, the rhetoric was a lot less than it is today. The rhetoric is raised to such a level that it has become a distraction to moving forward, and it has become where we get sound bites, one-word sound bites, or, you know, calling people names. We've got to get past this. I mean, I get so frustrated because it should be policies over politics. Today, we have gone to actually attacking people, and as we saw last week, we've seen actually a harmful attack on people, much past just the verbal attacks. So I think both sides have to change this leadership. We've already seen members of the Republican leadership come out and the Democrat leadership, but we have to continue this. We need to be able to say, look, we need to get the work of the American people done and bring this rhetoric down, because it does filter back to the country and it does filter back to the people back home, and that's what causes this hyper-partisan. Even when I'm in Ohio, you see it all the time.
Right. Yeah, Congressman, I got to say, I don't have any hard data, but I'm pretty sure the majority of Americans would agree with you on the need to have bipartisan work in Congress to get things done on behalf of the people. So thank you very much, Congressman Jim Renacci, for joining us this morning. I appreciate your time, sir.